If we want to get started, I think Mr. Talboy will probably join momentarily.
Okay.
Go ahead and get going.
Good. Well, we'll get started then.
Okay.
Do you have opening
Yeah,
remarks, Josh?
I'll go ahead and go through my opening statement real quick. Good evening and welcome to Boise City Design Review Committee meeting. A few things to start out with for tonight's proceedings. Everyone from the public entering the hearing has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you will be called upon and unmuted. You'll be promoted to panelist and will rejoin the meeting after a slight delay. There is a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. If the chat function isn't available for you, you can email zoninginfo@cityofboise.org with any technical issues. Our procedures for public hearings begin with a presentation from the planning team. We'll then go to the applicant and then the representative of the neighborhood association if present, followed by questions from the commission. After that, we will proceed to public testimony, starting with those who signed up on the online sign-up sheet in advance, and then anyone else who raises their hand virtually. If you are attending through your telephone, you can type *9 to raise your hand. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. Finally, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Tonight's agenda and proceedings will be almost the same as in-person hearings, except we might have a bit of a delay as we work through this technology. Please be courteous and patient with us while we venture through this virtual format. And with that, Mr. Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Josh. I'd like to call the December 9th, 2020 Design Review Committee meeting to order. Victoria, would you please call the roll?
Zabala,
Here.
Talboy,
Here.
Temple,
Here.
Aguilar,
Here.
Zuckerman.
Here.
5 present, 2 absent.
Thank you, Victoria. We have one item to be considered this evening on our consent agenda. That is item number 3, DRH 20-00472. David Becker. The location is 3201 Airport Way. The project is to construct a new 5-story public parking garage with associated site improvements on property located in a C3D service commercial with design review zone. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Are you in agreement with the recommended conditions of approval in the staff report?
Yes, we are.
Are there any other members here of the public wishing to testify in opposition to this particular item? Hearing none, this item will be moved to our consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I will be recusing myself from this item. My spouse is a principal at CSHQA.
Thank you. I will take a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of DRH 20-00472.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Victoria, would you please call the roll?
Zabala,
Aye.
Talboy,
Aye.
Temple,
Aye.
Zuckerman.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. And please note that Commissioner Aguilar has recused herself on this particular item, or abstained, excuse me. On our new business, the first item to be heard this evening is DRH 20-00408. The location is 10026 North Iceman Road. And the project is to construct a trucking terminal with a convenience store building, fuel pumps, and associated site improvements on property located in an M2D heavy industrial with design review zone. This item has been deferred from the previous November 18th, 2020 hearing and will be heard this evening. Is the applicant present? Excuse me?
We'll just start with.
Oh, I'm sorry. The first order of business then will be to have the staff present the report on this project. Josh?
Perfect. Good evening, Design Review Committee. Can everyone please let me know if you can see my shared screen? Perfect. Okay. So again, we are talking about item number DRH 20-00408, located at 10026 North Eisenman Road. So this project is for the construction of a trucking terminal, convenience store building, and fuel pumps. It is located in the M2D zone and the use is allowed. So this project has been deferred twice. The first time it was deferred in anticipation of ACHD comments, and the second time by the applicant's request due to a memo submitted to the Design Review Committee on November 17th. Though already in the record, I wish to summarize the memo as will be a point of discussion tonight. The city is modifying the conditions of approval to restrict access along Eisenman, future Lake Hazel, to one driveway. Previously, the report recommended compliance with ACHD draft comments, which included closing the second driveway in the future. However, further analysis has led us to propose restricting access now, rather than at an unknown future date that may or may not come to fruition. With the additional information putting that temporary status into question, we followed common practice and issued a memo modifying the report and recommendations. Now, my presentation tonight will mostly focus on access points to try and clarify some anticipated points of contention. If the committee has any questions on design or landscaping or any other elements, we can go back to that. Karen Gallagher of our comprehensive planning team is also here tonight. As someone who works more on long-term transportation planning, I believe she'll be an asset tonight to answer any questions that the Design Review Committee may have. So for some site context, you can see the aerial here. The area is predominantly vacant, but it is an area of anticipated future development. It is mostly industrial on the outskirts of current city limits. Now, I did have a member of the public reach out to me yesterday with concerns about speed limits in the area. The topic of speed limits is not a topic that we're discussing tonight with Design Review, and I did direct them to talk to ACHD, but I did want to get their concerns in the record tonight for them. So here is the proposed site plan. For clarity, this site plan is horizontal versus the vertical orientation of the actual property. What we see here as the right is actually the south. You can see the two proposed driveways. The southern access is designed for both passenger and commercial vehicles, while the northern access point is proposed for the exiting of trucks only. While we do appreciate the applicant's desire to separate the different forms of traffic, we believe the site is large enough to accommodate one access point that meets the same intent. Additionally, two access points increases the potential for vehicle conflict as well as pedestrian conflict for a future 10-foot wide multi-use pathway abutting the site. And we are restricting this or proposing to restrict it through the memo, and the city is able to be more restrictive than ACHD. However, before we get into the proposed restrictions too much, I would like to make a clarifying point. Throughout the staff report, ACHD report, written testimony, and inevitably in discussion tonight, Blue Cloud Lane is mentioned. Blue Cloud is not an actual street. It is essentially a driveway right now with an easement. Blue Cloud is not a street again, and the phrasing was adopted, however, due to an ease of referencing a point on a map. To be clear and for future understanding, this lane is not synonymous to the potential future north-south roadway. The exact location, width, and general design for this roadway has not been planned and may or may not be in the same location as what we see Blue Cloud Lane is having right now. It is actually expected, if it's actually developed, to be outside of the subject property. It will also inevitably have a different name. Again, this distinction is important for clarity and future reference. However, it also addresses some written comments that were received. A request was made to require dedication of right-of-way for the construction of this potential future street alignment, as well as partial payment for the street section. However, requiring right-of-way at this point would be based purely on assumptions. We do not know the future uses on adjacent properties, their impact or timing. We do not know street location or design. We do not know what, if any, right-of-way will be required for this subject property. Additionally, per the final ACHD report, which you can see down here, ACHD cannot require this applicant to dedicate right-of-way and construct the new public north-south collector roadway due to the fact that the roadway is not shown on the master street map and the roadway is located off-site. To reiterate, the memo is modifying the suggested conditions of approval to one access point along Eisenman, future Lake Hazel, which should be centrally located and will be restricted in the future. We are not requiring access to any future north-south street alignment, but are also not restricting it. As such, we're also not requiring any cross-access aside from the cross-access already proposed at the south of the property. This restriction is important to preserve the flow of the street, which will be an extension of Lake Hazel in the future. We have learned in past projects, such as the Eagle Road interchange, that access points can really make or break the flow and safety of the mobility arterials. We do not want to be dependent on a potential street section that may or may not happen or may not happen soon for appropriate design. Additionally, the applicant may bring up a deed with ITD in their presentation, and it has been brought to the attention of our legal staff. However, it is our stance tonight that this is a separate issue and not part of the design review process. With that, staff is recommending approval of DRH 20-00408 as modified in the memo submitted November 17th, 2020. And again, Karen is available for more technical questions if the committee may have them tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Casey. Is the applicant present? Josh, do we have, the applicant is present? Could the applicant please state your name and address for the record?
Mr. Chair, my name is Tamara Thompson. I'm with the Land Group. We're at 462 East Shore Drive in Eagle.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a PowerPoint if I could share that. Let's see here.
Tamara, you should have the ability to share at the bottom of your screen.
Thank you. Did that come through? Yes, all right, thank you. All right, we're here tonight to talk about the Mr. Gas truck, Boise Trucking Terminal. And as Casey said, the property is located on the east side of Southeast Eisenman Road, adjacent to I-84 and the off-ramp to Memory Road. This is the far southernmost extent of the Gateway East Urban Renewal District. The city has made a significant investment in the Eisenman Road area by acquiring real property and entering into a development agreement in 2018 with a developer to facilitate the leasing and construction of the area as an industrial park. This proposed trucking terminal is a supportive use immediately adjacent to the industrial park, which will provide convenient services to existing and future industrial park tenants and users. This is our site plan. I'll just walk you through it briefly. We are showing 2 direct access points onto South Eisenman Road. This entrance, so to get you oriented, north is left on this plan. The main entrance is here to the south, and everyone enters at this location. For the safety of so we have both passenger vehicles, which will access the convenience store and trucker lounge on this side of the property. So they would come in, and this is their gas area, and then this is an RV area. And then the larger commercial vehicles would travel around to the backside and in here. And this is their canopy for their fueling station. And then we have a substantial area for parking. This northernmost access is exit only. So everyone enters to the south and only the large trucks exit to the north. Staff originally got this right, got their analysis right, when on page 8, they analyzed this as the separation of passenger and commercial vehicles increases the safety and prevents commercial vehicles from having to turn around on the site. 2 access points are found to be appropriate by both the design review staff and Ada County Highway District. I'd like to point out also that our traffic study looked at this considerably, and that was conducted by Kimley Horn. And the proposed development meets the conditions of 2 access driveways per ACHD's policy 7205.4.4. The elevations are shown here, and this is the convenience store and the driver lounge. It's a single-story building with a height of approximately 25 feet. Most of the building is at 21 feet. The design provides for varying roof designs and a mix of materials and colors. The metal roof, exterior walls, there's a metal roof, sorry. Exterior walls are stucco. There's a board and bat siding in gray tones and aluminum windows and doors in silver. The fascia and trim are stone veneer fiber cement with CMU and metal in tan and gray. And Larson Architects is the architect. And they're on the call. We have our design team on as well. Should you have specific questions, we can bring them forward. As Casey mentioned, there are 3 deeded access points to this side of the road. This property enjoys 2 of those, which are accesses B and C. We've modified or moved those access points for a few different reasons. The main reason is to bring this southern access as far south as possible to get it away from the future roundabout. And then this northern one gets it off of the curve so that the line of sight is better at that location for better visibility. And our design locates the auto traffic closer to the interstate to potentially mitigate auto and industrial professional driver conflicts. This is an exhibit from, so when the Isaacs interchange was constructed, ITD entered into agreements and deeded access points to various properties along the Eisenman Road. And this is an exhibit from the ITD deeds. So you can see the property in question, and I've turned it so that north again is to the left so that everything your brain didn't have to flip them on you. The access points, this one is wider like this because it references everything by station number, and it calls out that the access can be within this area of the station. So it's a 100-foot area. And then the other one is called out exactly at this location. And it references them as 40 feet accesses at these 2 locations. And I am going to bring Josh. I have Josh Leonard with me, and I'm going to trade places with him. And he's going to talk to you more about these deeds. And I'm going to switch to, we'll come back to those. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Design Review Committee. I appreciate being here. My name is Joshua Leonard. and my address is 251 East Front Street. We're in Suite 310 here in Boise. Staff in its report to the committee stated that the warranty deed we submitted is a separate issue. That's incorrect, however. And in fact, as we're going to demonstrate tonight, the content of that warranty deed is crucial to the committee's decision on the number and location of accesses the subject party has to Eisenman Road. Looking at the deed, and I'm going to pull up a copy of the deed here. Can I jump out of this? Is that just by ending? Okay. I apologize, just one moment. Let's see if I have it here. Maybe I don't have it. Okay, well, I will reference the deed in just a second, but for now, let's jump right back to where we were in the slideshow. The code section that we're going to be talking about is in it's Idaho code, and it's in chapter 40, which deals with rights of way. Let's see where that goes up deeper. When we talk about a deeded access, it's important to understand what that means. In this case, the property existed as a single parcel with what's now across Eisenman Road for it. When the Idaho Transportation Department came in and realigned Eisenman Road, the then owner of the property, Mr. Elliott, deeded part of his property for Eisenman Road. It cut right through the property. In doing that, he reserved an easement. He reserved 3 easements actually to enter onto Eisenman Road from his property. And those are what are called deeded access points or access easements onto the right of way. The important part of this this section is in the sub B. If the governmental entity with jurisdiction over the road that the property has a deeded access to denies the property owner the right to use the easement, the denial shall constitute a taking of the access right for which just compensation shall be owed. What this means effectively is that there are 3 access points that are reserved as a matter of law and a matter of right on this side of Eisenman Road. One of those is to the southern property that's outside the city and not a part of our application. 2 of those are to the subject site and where the project will be located. This section of code was amended in 2012. Prior to that, if the design review committee, planning and zoning, or the city council had followed staff's recommendation, it was about a 50-50 chance as to whether or not it would be deemed a regulatory taking and whether or not the city would have to write a check. After this was adopted, and this was adopted because the Idaho legislature saw the inconsistency that was happening in the courts on determinations as to whether deeded accesses were takings or not when they were removed. The Idaho legislature decided to standardize it and decided that we're no longer going to let the courts decide. We're going to point to this, and we're going to create a law that requires it. I'm going to see if I can find that deeded access one more time, and I apologize again. See where I've got it here. Okay, I'm going to close down that screen, that's slideshow again, and pull this over. Okay, this is the warranty deed. Can you still see my screen okay? Thumbs up if you can see if I'm still sharing. How about that? Is that better? Okay, so this is the deed. It's from 1979. It's from Glenn Elliott, a trustee, and Hilda Elliott as a co-trustee. They're dedicating it to Micron Technology. From Micron Technology, pursuant to their arrangement with the Idaho Transportation Department, it is conveyed to the Idaho Transportation Department. From that point, it's conveyed to the Ada County Highway District. And I'm talking about the current existing alignment of Eisenman Road. When you look here, it talks about what the property is, and it says at the bottom of that first paragraph, described in Exhibit A hereto, and hereinafter referred to as the premises. Exhibit A includes the calls of a legal description, and then towards the end includes reservations. The key reservations are here, the last two. Accepting therefrom and reserving to the grantor rights of access over and through the above described parcel, the Eisenman Road, for ingress, egress, and access to the grantor between grantor's two remaining parcels separated by the above described parcel. When it's split, he's talking, he wants to be able to access his parcels on either side via Eisenman Road. The next part, though, is the crucial part. Also accepting therefrom and reserving to the grantor two public road connections for each of the grantor's remaining parcels to the proposed extension of Eisenman Road. Such public road connections to be at locations on each side of the proposed Eisenman Road at approximately, then it goes through and lists where they're located. After that, let's see if I've got it here. After that comes this exhibit. And this wasn't an exhibit to the initial deed. This was an exhibit created in 2008 prior to the existence of the law we just spoke of. This exhibit, you can see on the red marks, shows the existence or where the deeded access points are on the yellow property, which is the subject property. The one here that's got a gap between it is because it's got an area between which that deeded access can be. It's not a specific location. It's within that area. Down here at the bottom, the southern access is a specific point. Above is the location, and then you can see down below on that other parcel that's not a part. It's again a span of location. Based on the code that we identified, see if I can pull that up again here. Those deeded accesses are a property right, and to deny those accesses to the applicant is a compensable regulatory taking. My understanding is that this has also been submitted to the city's legal counsel, and I'd ask that you consult with her or him as to whether or not that's a correct interpretation of that law.
All right, thanks, Josh. So to get to the bottom line, we've read the staff report and agree with staff's analysis, with the exception of the late memo that is dated November 17th. We ask that that memo not be included in the approval, and that you, since it is a confusing situation and ACHD is the jurisdiction for the road, is that the city just defer to ACHD for the access. And we ask for your approval based on the conditions as codified in the conditions of approval. And with that, we'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the staff or the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Zuckerman.
Thank you. I have a question for Josh. It's not clear to me why or how it is design review's decision or how it's in our purview to dictate access points.
Josh, can you respond to that?
Committee member Zuckerman, sorry, I assume you're referring to me. There's two Joshes present.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, to you.
So when we review development applications, we have guiding principles in the comprehensive plan, and we have sections of ordinance which require that we take a look at the impacts to the transportation and public roadway system when we review applications. Specifically within our design review specific procedures, there is a finding related to vehicular circulation and access to public roadways. So we take ACHD's report, we look at our comprehensive plan policies and anything that we have in the ordinance regarding access, and then we produce our recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I'm still somewhat new here and wasn't sure why we were talking about this, but that makes sense. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Sample.
Again, I think this is a question for Josh. Kind of follow up on that initial question. Has the ACHD staff report, I think they have the 2 accesses as being approved or approvable per their policy. Is that something that I'm correct about, I guess?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Committee Member Simple, that's correct. ACHD does allow up to 2 accesses. The city can be more restrictive than the ACHD's recommendation, but we cannot grant accesses in excess of what they would allow.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the committee for staff or the applicant? Is there any public who wishes to testify to this particular project? Hearing. Josh, we had nobody else?
Actually, there's one.
Ron, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ron Puccinelli, the president of the South Heisman Neighborhood Association. And my members of our association obviously have a question about traffic impacts with a truck terminal. We have roughly 400 people living out here on Heisman Road. I do have a question about the right in, right out portion of the staff report. To me, that would be people turning in, going right, and going out of it, turning right. Turning right would take them down Heisman Road to Gowan, which is exactly where we would prefer they not go. So a right in, left out would make more sense to me, but the state of Heisman Road is still kind of unimproved. It's a 2-lane road by our park, and large amounts of traffic would be a definite negative impact for us. And since there is a really nice interchange right there on where Heisman crosses Highway 84, that would seem to be the appropriate place for that traffic, that terminal, to enter and access from. And that would be our desire, our preference would be for them to use that ingress and egress possible. Because we do have small children walking along the road, which would be a public danger. So we just want to express our concerns and put it on record that we would like to have some form of what? Sorry? Well, some form of control that would direct traffic to take the Heisman interchange rather than Gallen Road. Do I make myself clear? I hope.
Thank you, Mr. Puccinelli. For the record, before you leave, could we get your address for the record?
2247 Blue Lake Lane, Heisman, in Boise.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Are there any other people from the public that would like to speak to this at this time?
Mr. Chairman, Deborah Nelson will be next.
No more? One more.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Could we get your name and address for the record, please?
Thank you. Deborah Nelson. My address is 601 West Bannock Street, and I'm here on behalf of a landowner to the north, the Eisenman Exchange LLC. They own 2 parcels that are just immediately north of the Mr. Gas project site. And we are here to provide comments on this application to let you know we support the application generally. We don't have concerns with the use that they propose, but we have concerns about how it could impact our property to the north. In particular, we're very concerned about any routing of their trucks over our property. They've got over 5,000 trips per day with significant heavy truck traffic associated with a trucking terminal. We appreciate staff's recommendation not to require those trucks to be routed through our property directly to the north through cross access or otherwise. So just wanted to confirm that we are in agreement with that recommendation. That wouldn't be safe or reasonable to burden our property with that. But we do have remaining concerns about the surrounding off-site streets and infrastructure that's available to serve this development. Casey commented that Blue Cloud shouldn't have been referred to as a street. It is an existing private driveway, and it does serve this area now. It also has always been planned to serve this area. Back in 2008, the city and ACHD together put together a study to consider what would happen when Lake Hazel was expanded and new infrastructure came into this area. And they planned in that 2008 study that in the location of Blue Cloud Lane, there would be a new public road that served these properties. And so now is the time when you've got an application before you that will impact roadways in the surrounding area and whose design needs to be considered now about how it will connect to future roadways to take into account where those roads would be. You know, Casey made the comment that we don't know exactly where that'll be. And so we can't require anything about it now. We can't require a right-of-way to be dedicated. But I would say the opposite is true, that if you don't take it into account now, as was already planned in 2008, it will be too late once you've approved a site and not taken into account those design considerations. And so it is appropriate to require, as was originally described in the city staff report, for them to design in a way that accommodates future right-of-way dedication at that northwest corner, so that that expected future public roadway does have room to connect down to serve their property, including the proposed cul-de-sac where it will dead end on their property. So even if they don't dedicate the right-of-way now, it's accommodated in their site design. In fact, the city itself has a lot of control over how that Blue Cloud Lane will become a public roadway in the future, because they have control over the land that's needed for the right-of-way. Our clients, Eisenman, has agreed to dedicate right-of-way that falls on their property so that half of the road could fall on their property and half on the city's property. So we ask for the city generally to cooperate in that effort. And for your purposes now, as you're approving a development that will have impact on all of these surrounding properties and roadways, we ask that you require Mr. Gass to accommodate that northwest area in their site design for the expected future public roadway to the north, and for you to require them to participate in sharing in the future cost of that roadway, which will inevitably be needed to serve their truck traffic, as well as all of the new development that is around this area. Thank you for your consideration, and I would stand for any questions you have.
Are there any questions of Ms. Nelson? Thank you. We appreciate that.
David Ward will be next.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is David Ward. I am a partner with the Boyer Company. My address is 101 South 200 East, Suite 200, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84101. We are the aforementioned development partner with the City of Boise for the Boise Gateway Industrial Park, which has a development agreement in place for the parcel to the northwest of the Mr. Gass proposed parcel. And likewise with Ms. Nelson, we generally don't have any opposition to this use or the proposed plan that has been shown by the applicant. We also have concerns about plans for any north-south roadway that may be considered as part of this application. We are not in favor as the development party for the east parcel that is controlled by the city of Boise to route traffic through the land we have under our development agreement for a roadway. We are also concerned about, when you look at the trip counts, if that traffic is applied to the Freight Street road further to the north that may be extended from Eisenman Road, how that will impact the functionality of that intersection of Freight Street and Eisenman at that location when you consider additional development for the parcels that are directly north of Mr. Gas, as well as the planned development that we have for the city of Boise parcels under our development agreement. So we're not in favor of a north-south road in that area. Without further discussion, we would say that we feel like there could be additional dialogue in that regard to come up with a potential solution. But just on the surface of it, we have serious concerns about additional truck traffic and roadway implementation that may impact our parcel and furthermore trigger any additional infrastructure cost requirements on behalf of the Boyer Company for roadway improvements that in no way benefit the parcel that we have under our control. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you. And welcome any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions of Mr. Ward? Thank you, sir. I believe we have no other public testimony on this at this time. Are there any last questions for the staff or the applicant?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Aguilar.
can Karen Gallagher talk about that area in the transportation plan and what the city, I guess, sees is happening there and why the city is made this recommendation in their memo that they recently submitted?
Oh, sure. Can you hear me? Am I? Okay, great. Thanks. So, as was stated earlier, there was a plan done by both ACHG and the city of Boise looking at the Lake Hazel alignment study. And in that, it was planned to really have half-mile access points. Here at the junction with the interstate, as Casey mentioned, we're hypersensitive really to access points after we saw what happened by the St. Luke's at the Eagle Road interchange and how the access points there really caused a lot of congestion for many years until they put the median in that restricted them to right in, right out. So having that experience, we know that access restrictions coming off an interstate ramp really can make or break the flow and all the investment that we put in to have the public traveling on those roads. So in this case, Lake Hazel, I just want to highlight that, you know, we typically deal with local roads, then collector, then arterials. And in this case, it's a mobility arterial. It's really to move regional traffic. So it's even kind of above and beyond what we deal with on Fairview or even State Street on what we're looking at for moving traffic on these roads. So that said, I don't even think we have the half-mile spacing that we'd like from the ramp to the proposed roundabout here. But we know that every driveway that is introduced increases the driver load. And we'd like to minimize that to reduce the conflict points and crashes in the future. I guess the other thing that I'd like to bring up is that at Eisenman and Lake Hazel is planned a roundabout. So the concern that was brought up by the neighborhood association, access restrictions at this driveway, people would then be able to access the roundabout to get back in the direction of going towards the interstate without routing all the way around up Eisenman Road. So, and I'm glad to answer more specific questions, but I'm hoping that gave you an overview of the regional plan and the sensitivity near the on-ramp.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you. Karen, I can't see the map in my head. Is the roundabout, is the location of the roundabout such that the trucks would not pass any residences before they would turn around and head back to the freeway? Or what are they passing?
I don't know if Casey, I don't know if anyone could pull up a map. All right, so we've got the interstate and the ramp, and as we travel along, abutting this property, then you come to the roundabout there at the the dog leg right there. So if a person came off the off ramp, accessed Mr. Gas, and then took a right turn out, they would then travel down Eisenman, come to the interchange or the roundabout, and then head back towards the interstate if that was the direction they were hoping, or that was their destination to get back on the interstate. Did that make sense?
So yes, it makes sense. My question is, I couldn't see in any of the maps, is there anything along that road on either side that would be disrupted by that traffic?
I'm sorry, that would be disrupted, did you say, or just, I missed what the word was there.
I mean, is there anything on either side of it? It looks like it's open land, but I can't see past, I can't see the other side of that dog bone. I mean, it looks like it's all open land, but I'm just trying to make sure that there's nothing residential or any other use that would be disrupted by all of that traffic turning around in that roundabout.
Oh, okay. So in the roundabout, just the preliminary work that the city did is going to be sized such to accommodate easily the 20-year traffic projections in this area. The plan is for Lake Hazel Road to continue to the west. Actually, the next application on your agenda deals with an application to the west of that north-south part of Eisenman. And so we're in an industrial area until we get over almost to the Orchard or Pleasant Valley alignment, if that helps with the land uses in this area.
Okay, so just to be clear, that the span of road between the right out and the roundabout, there's nothing along there that's anything close to residential. Is that, it's all industrial, correct?
That's correct. I mean,
Chairperson Zabala, if I may cut in, sorry about that.
Yeah.
To answer that question, there is, hopefully you can see my mouse on my shared screen. There is an existing residential property right here. Obviously they take access through this street, so it's not directly abutting. And there is an existing mobile home on this property. However, the use is predominantly industrial right now. We anticipate it to be removed soon. There's no large residential developments along this area.
Okay, thank you. That helps very much.
And Dana, I believe the only other residential development is farther north on Eisman, which we saw previously. But that's way beyond this project site at the moment. But that's the reference that Mr. Puccinelli was talking about.
Right. What I was asking was, are there individual, any kind of residences? And Casey just answered that question. I appreciate it.
Very good. Are there any other questions of staff or the applicant at this time? The applicant, you have 5 minutes. Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Talboy, you got a question? You're muted, sir.
Sorry about that, operator error. While the map is up there, or maybe if someone, either staff or Ms. Gallagher, could answer, with the right turn to get to the roundabout, what is the approximate distance?
I think we're just under the half mile if you were at the midpoint of their property. when we measured it, it didn't quite come out to the half mile. We were a bit, maybe more than a bit shy. I'm sure Josh Leonard would have that dimension though.
Okay. And while I'm asking that, would you just use your pointer to show me where the Lake Hazel is Lake Hazel the next street up going east-west, or where is that alignment that we're talking about?
So I actually don't think I have access to, does my pointer actually show up here? I don't think it does.
Okay.
But maybe Casey or Josh can help me with this, so what we see is Memory Road coming off here from the interstate and coming around. It would continue directly to the west from that intersection where it
Okay.
tees right now with Eisenman.
Okay, so off of the, it would be off of the roundabout then, correct?
It would be the west leg of the roundabout,
Right.
correct?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the staff or the applicant? Okay. Tamara, you have 5 minutes for any rebuttal comments you'd like to make.
Thank you, sir. Again, Tamara Thompson for the record. I'll go through the question or the comments real quick. The neighborhood association, Mr. Puccinelli, Karen was correct in what she said there, that this would not go through the intersection. And could I share my screen again? It's not allowing me to do that at this time. There we go. I just have a couple exhibits to show you. So one of them, we did drop the city's roundabout onto the plan just to show you how that works. So the question about access and having a right in, right out, the 2 access points are approved by ACHD, and the northernmost access would not go to right in, right out until such time as the roundabout was in. And so you would exit that roundabout and take a right and go around the roundabout and back to the freeway. And I want to point out that our northernmost access, where it's currently designed, is roughly 1,550 feet to the roundabout, and freight on Eisenman is 1,380, so much closer than how far away ours is. As far as the connection to the north, the city, the staff report does not require cross access. We're not opposed to it, but we are not requesting cross access. And one of the things I want to show you is just how unreasonable it would be to use what others are calling blue cloud. This is our access point here, and this is just a simple clip I did on Google Earth today, that if you were to travel up Blue Cloud to the north to Freight, back down to Eisenman to get to just to the location that gets you to the current access that we have, that is going out of your way 1.12 miles. And that's just not reasonable. For a convenience store, that's just not convenient. So that's just not something that's going to happen as far as customers going up and around. The ACHD has allowed access onto Eisenman at 2 locations. And we think that the city, this is definitely, I think, Commissioner Zuckerman, that the first question that you asked is, how does the city have jurisdiction here? And they really don't. This is arbitrary. There's no policy that backs this up. The memo that's included does not include any policy whatsoever. The study that is referenced has not been approved by the city. And just real quickly, if I'm running out of time, but I just want to show you on this study, this is the alignment map. And please note this number 1 here says access was granted by ITD during the design and construction of Isaacs Canyon Interchange. So it is referencing the deeded access points that were originally approved. So in conclusion, this development of the property provides an essential service to encourage the orderly development of the Gateway East Urban Renewal District in accord with the Boise City Code. Developing an efficient, safe trucking terminal will support the planning goals and patterns already established in the immediate area and enable the area to become more desirable for future investment, responsible development, and employment opportunities while managing growth. We agree with the conditions of approval as stated in the staff report. We disagree with the access memo, the late access memo that is dated November 17th. We ask that you approve the project with the conditions of approval and exclude the access memo and defer to ACHD based on their policy for access. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, I will, are there any further questions of the applicant from the committee? Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and we'll consider a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Semple.
I guess I just kind of want to start the conversation with the rest of the committee regarding traffic and access points. I see, I guess, both sides of it from staff point of view as well as applicant's point of view. When it sounds like it's really based on traffic, which typically we don't handle, I see access points impacting design. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around restricting site access, I guess, when we're looking at documents that are granting 2 points of access. But again, also looking at that as a legal document, an agreement that typically design review does not have purview over agreements outside of the design. So I guess I'm just trying to throw it out there to see what the rest of the committee thinks and to start that conversation of how we move forward.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Talbot.
I agree with Commission Member Simple. I have been sitting here scratching my head about that issue, really kind of twofold, having to do with exactly the point of deeded access points, whether there's any conflict between the proposals and the statute in the Idaho Code provision or Idaho Code section that deals with deeded access points. And if I recall, and if somebody can guide me, I would appreciate it. But has there been a request for a review by the city attorney as to some of these legal consequences of regarding the access points? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, I believe that's true.
And do we know what the status of that is? And if so, if not, how would my concern is we could make a decision, one that is outside of our purview, number one, and two, that may ultimately be in conflict with what the decision of the city attorney is. which to me could really delay this project plus cause a real problem for all concerned. So, I'm inclined to I don't know. I just don't see how we can impose that condition for those reasons.
Mr. Chairman, Committee Member Talboy, I'll jump in real quick. So our legal staff is aware of the issue. They are analyzing it. It was a late addition to the record, so we do not have an answer. I would just say that they will go through the process and analyze that, and that takings analysis is a separate issue from the design review approval. It is not a part of tonight's decision. That process can take place regardless of your decision tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Aguilar.
I'm struggling with this a little bit as well. We are supposed to be looking at not only the design review guidelines, but we're also supposed to be looking at the comprehensive plan and the various approved policies and plans that are in place. I struggle with the late memo. Unfortunately, it doesn't cite any city policies that it's referring to. It does says it's in conflict. City and ACHD policies are in conflict, but it doesn't cite any. So I think it makes it harder for a decision here. I think we can review and influence the location of access points because it is part of the site plan review. I understand the city's concerns with those access points locations because now is the time to adjust and make these decisions. I used to work near to the St. Luke's on Eagle Road, so I have firsthand knowledge on how crazy it is over there, those access points. But I'm not seeing in the memo specific policies that are in conflict with the ACHD approvals.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Semple.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Committee Member Aguilar and Talboy. I think that it's it looks like ACHD's report allows for the two accesses. ITD has approved those accesses. There's obviously some historical grant of access points there. And I know we're talking about a future roadway and roundabout. I know with experience in the past, ACHD has allowed certain access points and then, subject to if there are reports of vehicular conflict or pedestrian and vehicular conflict, that they can revise, their approval of those access points and require closures of them to help with public safety. So, I'm kind of leaning towards approval of the project subject to the conditions of approval. I know we had a late memo that was dated today, 12/9, about a letter of commitment stipulating requirements for future development to the west of the site as well. And that was a modification to site-specific condition 1B as well as an added condition 1J, and then the deletion of condition of approval 16. And I didn't hear the applicant state that they were opposed to any of those or any of the other conditions of approval in the staff report other than the November 17th memo restricting site access. I guess I'd like to hear what other committee members think about, an approval of the project without the November 17th memo due to some ongoing legal discussions with the city internally. The the legal department there as well as with the applicant. So I guess, again, kind of looking to see what everyone else feels like.
Commissioner Semple, I believe that that memo that you referred to as the one we received today is not for this particular parcel. It's for this second item on our agenda. And that's
Thank
maybe,
you for clarifying that. They're both right next to each other, so it talks about the same area, so I apologize for that.
yeah, it's a little confusing. Okay. Casey, do you have a comment? Oh, never mind.
I was just going to clarify that the memo.
Very good. Do we have a motion then? It's from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Semple.
I would move approval of DRH 20-00408 as recommended in the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommended conditions of approval, excluding the memo dated November 17th, 2020.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Zuckerman. Any further discussion? Very well. Victoria, would you please call the roll?
Zabala,
Aye.
Talboy,
Aye.
Semple,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Zuckerman.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on tonight's agenda is DRH 20-00456. And this is a site located at 2155 East Freight Street. And the proposal is to construct a trucking terminal and warehouse building totaling approximately 280,000 square feet with associated site improvements on property located in an M2D heavy industrial design review zone. Josh, you'd like to go ahead with the staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see with the aerial on the screen, I can understand the confusion between the two properties. They are very close in proximity to each other. The subject property for this application is on the west side of the existing Eisman Road and will be located west of the future roundabout that was previously shown to be at the intersection of the future Lake Hazel there. As Mr. Chairman mentioned, the applicant is requesting approval tonight of a warehouse and trucking facility on that piece of property. It is solely accessed from Freight Street currently. This slide may have been helpful in the last hearing as well, but it does show that anticipated alignment of the future Lake Hazel Road extension bisects this property, which is currently owned by the city of Boise and under contract with the developer to construct the subject building and then some future buildings as well. So that future Lake Hazel Road improvement does bisect the currently very large site. The current application is entirely to the north of that future Lake Hazel Road. So that would be located along the southern boundary of the property. The applicant is going through the record of survey process with the city to finalize this parcel configuration. This will be a stipulation for future development of this property will be that a subdivision will be required for any future development to the west of the subject building in the kind of undeveloped land out there, more on the western side of the site. This property is eligible for a building permit, and thus it's before you tonight with that slight property configuration. Staff and the applicant are largely in agreement with the conditions of approval. The items up for discussion were included in a late correspondence memo that was distributed to the committee today. I'll go through those. I do have some changes to those, and apologize to the applicant and certainly the committee members for the lateness of this information. This has been a somewhat complex application, a lot of discussions with the applicant. When we have that future Lake Hazel roadway, the location is not exactly known. The road is not designed. So therefore, we have to build into this approval a lot of flexibility about how those future improvements are constructed, about what the applicant's obligations for those future improvements are, and then how we treat those properties to the west as they develop. So with the late memo today, we would propose that condition 1B be modified as stated in the memo. It references a letter of commitment with the city of Boise and some potential obligations of the developer. I think that's an important point, is that these are not set in stone here tonight. That is part of the future development process of the western portion of the site. And there's certainly some anticipation that, participation in construction of that Lake Hazel extension, a multi-use pathway, and then other subdivision improvements as deemed necessary will be required in the future. We would propose to add condition 1J. I would modify this from the memo today and strike the 2 bullet points proposed there and include that the applicant is responsible for the maintenance and irrigation of the right-of-way landscaping located within an 8-foot buffer with trees abutting the south side of the multi-use pathway. The construction and installation of the multi-use path landscaping and irrigation is delayed until the property to the west is developed, and details of the landscaped area, including width, plant materials, and maintenance, will be finalized through the required subdivision process that will detail the construction of those improvements. And then also in that memo, we did delete condition 16. That was a boilerplate condition that we place on properties in close proximity to residential properties that limits loading activities. This property is zoned M2, heavy industrial. It is certainly anticipated that loading activities will take place, not just between those restricted hours. So we would recommend deleting condition 16. With that, I would stand for any questions from the committee, and I believe the applicant is here and would like to discuss those additional conditions in the memo today.
Is the applicant present?
Yes, I am here. This is David Ward from the Boyer Company again. My address is 101 South 200 East, Suite 200, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84101. We are, first of all, thankful for Josh and staff and Karen for working through these last minute adjustments on the staff report. And based on those modifications that Josh just explained, we are in agreement with the staff report and have no other comments to make at this time. I welcome any questions you have regarding the project or any other aspects of our position on the staff report. But as Josh noted, largely we were in agreement with just some of the details that were really more clarification items than anything else as part of the record as we move forward. Not only with this development, but then with future plans for development further to the west of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Are there any questions for the staff or the applicant from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Be simple.
I just want to clarify with the applicant that they are in agreement with the memo dated today with the modification to the added condition 1J that Josh had discussed during his presentation.
Yes. Council member, can you still hear me? Am I?
you stated that you are in agreement with the modified language that Josh presented in his report for added condition 1J, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Ward or the staff? Is there any other public who wishes to testify on this particular application? No. Apparently not. Are there any last questions for the staff on this from the committee? Hearing none, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and we'll consider a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Semple.
I move that we approve item DRH 20-00456 as recommended in the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommended conditions of approval, including the memo dated December 9th, 2020, with the modifications as stated by the staff to the added condition 1J that was presented during the staff presentation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Talboy. Any further discussion? Victoria, would you please call the roll?
Zabala,
Aye.
Talboy,
Aye.
Semple,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Zuckerman.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. One last item before we adjourn here. I was remiss in not getting approval of our meeting minutes of November 18th, so I will take a motion on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Semple.
I move that we approve the minutes from the November 18th, 2020 Design Review Committee meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Zuckerman. Victoria, please call the roll.
Zabala,
Aye.
Talboy,
I was not in attendance, so I cannot vote on the approval of the minutes.
Semple,
Aye.
Aguilar,
Aye.
Zuckerman.
Aye.
Motion carries 4 in favor.
Thank you. That concludes our agenda and the public portion of our December 9th, 2020 meeting. We are adjourned.